Good morning. Last week we began this series called Important Enough, a series on enough. We talked enough as a question that haunts us. We wonder if we have enough, if we get enough, if we do enough, or be enough. Sometimes it seems like we can never achieve enough. Family, finances, fitness, faith, friends, work, and school. But while all this is important, enough is not the goal. Just think about it for a moment. You don't approach your marriage with just enough commitment to avoid divorce. Or on your job, you don't put in just enough efforts to not get fired. And at school, you don't apply yourself just enough not to fail. So enough is not our purpose in life. We hear today in the Gospel of Mark that he writes that Jesus and his disciples set out for the village of Caesarea Philippi. Along the way, he asked his disciples, "Who do people say that I am?" And we hear their whole variety of answers of kind of giving him back the talk that they've been hearing about who Jesus is from others. They said some are saying that you're John the Baptist, while others think you're Elijah. Still others, one of the prophets. But the real question is the one that Jesus asks them next, when he makes it personal and asks them, "But who do you say that I am?" Every person who encounters the Lord must answer this question in two ways. First, we need to answer it objectively, as in, who was Jesus? That Jesus stands out uniquely among all people in human history, that he wasn't crazy, and he claimed to be the Son of God. We ask ourselves, do we believe this as an objective truth? But then we need to go much deeper and answer that same question on a personal level. If Jesus really is the Savior of the world, then he's my Savior. If he really is Lord of heaven and earth, then he is my Lord. Do we truly believe this? I would argue that the most important question we'll ever be asked is the one that Jesus asks right there. Who do you say that I am? Then we hear what the disciples' answers were, that Peter jumps up and he's the first one to speak, and he says, "You are the Christ." He hits the nail right on the head. That it's his great profession of faith. That in the other Gospels we see that Jesus then makes him the head of the church. "You are the rock upon which I will build my church." All because of Peter's profession of his faith, that Jesus is the Christ. But Jesus tells him, don't tell anyone. And we see that kind of over and over in Mark's Gospel of Jesus saying, don't tell anyone that I'm the Messiah. We kind of wonder why. It doesn't seem like Jesus was taking advantage of all of his marketing opportunities there of advertising himself as the Messiah, that he always tells them to keep it quiet to themselves. So why? And it came down to exactly that they didn't yet understand what it truly meant to be the Messiah, to be the Christ. that they still associated it with a political or a military meaning that he was going to instigate some kind of a revolution and to establish himself as a king. That Jesus' mission had nothing to do with any of that. So Jesus helps them to teach them that as a Messiah, he had to suffer and to die. Almost completely opposite of what their preconceived notion of what a Messiah would be. So much so that Peter can't even believe it and says, Lord, this can't be true. But Jesus says, get behind me, Satan. You're thinking not as God does, but as human beings do. And Peter didn't understand the reality of what it meant to be a follower of Christ. Whoever wishes to come after me must deny himself, take up his cross, and follow me. For whoever wishes to save his life will lose it, but whoever loses his life for my sake and that of the gospel will save it. So if you're focusing your life energy on enough, you might be missing the point. Our real goal is to follow Jesus. This is not a passive spectator sport. Don't have a show and go mentality of your faith. Show up at Mass and then go on about your lives. To follow Jesus means to go where he goes, even when that means going to the cross. That sounds difficult and challenging, but it's better than the alternative in which we worry about making life work out for us all alone and on our own. It's better than the constant feeling of knowing that we don't have enough. When we focus only on enough, we make our lives all about us and follow only our own will and our own way. Following the Lord to the cross always leads to a place of more than enough. Who do you say that I am? For Peter, Jesus was the Lord and Savior, his Lord and Savior, as long as things were going great. Think about our lives here in the last year and a half. We've all suffered greatly in one way or another. But our parish has suffered communally. We have an opportunity here to renew our commitment as disciples of Christ and choose again to pick up our cross and follow him. We went through a crisis together. We suffered, we pulled through, we carried each other, we stuck together. We lived our faith. How? By doing what we're already doing with increased dedication and maybe a little more humility. With Christ as our leader, with Christ as our shepherd, with Christ as our guide, with Christ and Christ alone.